Thank you so much, Tyrell. With me in Studio 5 today, I have André Styger, and he's going to be telling us a bit more about small claims court. Now, of course, this insert is proudly brought to you with the compliments of Neumann van Rooyen. André, once again, thank you for joining us in studio.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely always to visit you guys here at Gold FM.
Most definitely. Now, André, I really do think you're going to be touching on some points here that so many of us need to know. So do tell us a bit more. What is a small claims court?
I think it's important to maybe start with what it was aiming for and why it was began, or why they began with the small claims court back in the 80s. They realized there is a dire need for a cheaper, more accessible way for handling small claims, which is defined as claims below 20,000 for the ordinary, Joe Soap in the street, not having to go through lawyers and the intimidation of actual court processes and so forth. So in 1980, somewhere I think it was 84, they promulgated the Small Claims Court Act, and then it basically instituted small claims, which basically comes down to that you don't have legal representation in a small claims court, so you don't need to use a lawyer. As a matter of fact, lawyers are prohibited to represent any of the parties. What you would think of as a magistrate is actually called a commissioner. Those roles are fulfilled by volunteer attorneys, senior attorneys, that basically adjudicate the cases that comes before them. The way they handle it is very informal. It's more, sometimes it's even in an office setup. So it's an inquisitive kind of form that you just tell your story and the other person tells his story, and the commissioner makes a ruling. And what's nice about it is that there's no appeal process, so it means it can't be dragged out for months on end. The decision is final. It can be reviewed. The difference between review and appeal being that if the commissioner made a gross mistake, like not having jurisdiction to rule on that kind of matters, it can be reviewed. But as far as the ruling itself is concerned, his decision is final, and it's extremely inexpensive. There's not much costs involved, and it's user friendly. So anybody out there with a matter against somebody else below 20,000 can easily use this and save a lot of money.
All right. Now, I think you've touched also a little bit on this, André, but who can use these small claims courts and for what purpose?
Yeah, I think what I failed to say, which is important, is it's only available for individuals. Okay. So companies can't use or even misuse this. So if you've got a claim as a business, unfortunately, you have to use the formal court process, go via an attorney preferably, and so forth. But if you're just a normal individual and somebody owes you money, or somebody has bumped into your car and you can prove it, or somebody has not delivered stuff that they've promised, those type of matters, you can go to the local magistrate court, and you speak to the clerk of the small claims court, and they will assist you and go through the process very easily, and then you take the matter up on an informal basis. I think as a frame of reference for those people who have been to the CCMA with labor matters, similar kind of process. It's just to make justice easier, cheaper, and more accessible for matters below 20,000. There are certain matters, however, which is important to note that you cannot take to the small claims court. You can't, for instance, go to the small claims court and discuss the validity of a will. You can't take marital matters to a small claims court, like maintenance or divorce or stuff like that. You can't take matters that already has a court order on in your favor to the small claims court. There you have to use a different process. But in general, I think just as a rule of thumb, if somebody owes you money, if somebody said he will give you something which he didn't, if somebody caused you any damages, which can be easily proved, and similar matters, this is the process to use, and no lawyers involved, and you can do so very, very inexpensively.
All right. Now, André, let's say I have a claim of less than 20,000 Rand and I want to make use of the small claims court. What do I need to do?
All right. I think if you have access to the internet, it's easy. You just go to government, justice.gov.za, and you'll look for the small claims court. It will explain to you the process which we're discussing here if you want to have it in writing in front of you. But in short, if you don't have access to internet, or you don't want to do the trouble of doing so, you just go to the local magistrate's court and you say to, listen, I'm looking for the small small claims court, and they will guide you. But what it comes down to, in essence, as far as process is concerned, they expect you to at least engage with the debtor or the person that you want to sue to say, listen, I believe you owe me money, please pay me. If he refuses to do so, the first requirement that you've got to prove that you've actually followed was to send a letter of demand. Okay. So you have to put it in writing, say, listen, I believe you owe me this for this reason, I want payment, and you must give the person 14 days. Okay. And then once you have proof that you've given that, now the proof can be I've hand-delivered it to him personally, or I've sent it by registered mail, and he didn't respond within the 14 days. Then I go to the small claims court's clerk, and they will help me issue a summons. So they will issue the summons there, and then they will give you the summons to actually go and hand deliver it to the person that owes you the money. If you don't want to do that, or you feel it's going to be too confrontational, you can take it to the sheriff to do so on your behalf, but then there will be a nominal fee payable to the sheriff to do so. Once in the summons itself, the court will basically charge the person or summons the person to appear before the Small Claims Commissioner and to put his case forward. Just keep in mind, it might be important if that person feels that, listen, but you're claiming that I owe you money, but as a matter of fact, you owe me money as well, you can countersue or counterclaim. But the commissioner will in that case also make a ruling, and as I've said, the ruling is final, and usually the ruling is that the person must pay right there and then. If the person can't pay or is financially burdened or is not in a position to do so, the commissioner will right there and then do an inquiry as to his financial position, and then make a ruling for installments or interest to be paid and so forth. I think just having said that, you should first of all maybe just ask yourself, can the person pay? Yes. No sense in suing a homeless guy or whatever. True. You can still sue him and get the court order, but you're never going to recover it. But if there's a means of paying, or the person does have assets, you can always use the small claims court. And if you have got your ruling in your favor and he doesn't pay, you simply then go to the magistrate in the magistrate's court with a prescribed form that's also on the internet, and then they issue a warrant of execution and so forth, and you can go after assets and then the normal process. But I think the key being here, no lawyers, no excessive legal fees, easily administered and available for every man on the street, given the process being followed properly.
All right. So there you have it. André, thank you so much. I think you really touched on some good points, a lot that many of our radio friends can also, use and decide if they would like to go ahead with it. So once again, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
So there you have it. This insert was brought to you with the compliments of Neumann van Rooyen. Remember to visit nvrlaw.co.za. Tyrell, back to you in Studio 3.